of you could ask questions about any other past programs as well. But okay, Alex, you're on.
Thank you so much, Johanna, and thank you everyone for being here. Yeah, Johanna is correct. The two teachings for this week, the new Jesus was you are born with software, and the software runs every day for selfishness, for seek pleasure and avoid pain. So you don't have to try to live that way. That is built into you, and it wars every day against another software program that we are born with and have running every day, which is to prioritize relationships and love. And so every day is sort of, okay, which one of those am I going to choose today and 100 times today? When it comes to taking out the garbage, traffic, what I do at work, how I treat people, what I do in the dark when nobody can see, all of that is relevant to what are you choosing. And I would say it's not even up to you. It's not your responsibility to do right and not do wrong. I don't think you can. Now, you can some, but not, you can't do it to the degree that you need to. And it's not about that. It's about you choosing in your heart that my intention, the thing I want most, is to live in love, prioritize relationships, etc. I'm trying to do that. I mess up every single day, but that's my intention. Okay? And then on deep water, we talked about when tragedy strikes. And 5 to 15 times in a lifetime, typically, tragedy strikes an average person. For some people, it's way more than 15 because of where they're born and the family they're born into. Sometimes you're in a war zone. Sometimes there's nothing to eat. Sometimes you're in unsafe conditions. But for the average person, 5 to 15 times in a lifetime. And I've referenced before the wonderful work of Dr. Reiki Hamer, from a medical doctor from Germany who took 6,500 last-stage cancer patients, treated them, and had over 6,000 of them recover and survive. And he said he did it based on his theory of where illness and disease comes from in the first place. And that is, it comes from a conflict shock experience, a tragedy, a major trauma. And that when you have these 5 to 15 tragedies, traumas in your life, a lesion, literally a physical lesion, forms somewhere on your brain. And wherever the lesion forms, that's where you're going to break. For me, it was acid reflux. For Hope, it was depression. For Dr. Ben, it was ALS. It's different for different people. But it's not if you'll break, it's when you'll break. So those are the two things we talked about this week, is when tragedy strikes, how do you not get taken down for the count to the point that you really never bounce completely back, versus that tragedy being something that literally becomes a power source in your life that takes you to the next higher level of your life, which is, I believe, how we're supposed to deal with those things, even though it's hard, difficult, and painful. So those are the two topics, but we can discuss other things if you'd like. So that's it for me, Johanna.
All right. So if you'd like to interact with Alex, and you're on the phone, you can raise your hand by pressing star 2. Star 2 is going to raise your hand. If you are on the web and you would like to type out a question or share a comment, you can just type that into the field, and I will read that to Alex, and you can connect in that way. So go ahead and raise your hand. Star 2 is going to raise your hand, and I'll open your line you can interact with Alex. Okay, we have a hand up, and I believe it's Miss Marilyn. Your line is open.
Yes, good morning.
Hey, Marilyn.
I'm going to talk about when tragedy strikes because I had a very interesting response to it. When I was listening to you, you talked about that feeling where you've hit rock bottom and for me it was nowhere to go but up. That's how I felt.
Yeah.
Interesting enough, I remembered feeling that, but I can't remember when. I know it probably was my late teens, early 20s. But after the call, I took the trilogy from the All Access email and I started to heal on it, even though I couldn't remember specifically. And I don't think it was a specific incident, one-off. I think it was a series of things that happened where I just, it just...
Right.
...rock bottom and I think... but as I started to use the trilogy, I had an image of my sister come in when I was probably 4 or 5, maybe younger, and the feeling was very much unfair because she was just the perfect child.
You had one of those too, huh?
Oh, I did. Yes, I did. And I was the exact opposite. And then my older brother and then my younger brother come in. The feeling was my mother wanted all them, and it was unfair that she didn't want me. And so I healed on that. And afterwards, I was at my computer and I got up and I came into the kitchen. And the feeling was like my lungs expanded.
Ah, yeah.
And I felt like I stood straight, and I thought, that was interesting. And because I went back to that time in my life, later in the day I thought, I wonder whether when my younger brother come and told me that he had set fire to the house was a shock. And so I then took the trilogy again, and I healed on the specific memory of him telling me that he had started a fire, and the specific memory of going into the house and seeing the fire. But in that memory also I had to run because we were at the Davis house and he had gone home, and it was probably 50 meters from where I was when he told us to where we ran. And then after we entered the house and I realised as a 4-year-old, no, I couldn't do anything about it, we then ran. This was a college campus, so the road was not like traffic. We then ran in the other direction. And so I also healed on that memory of running. And as I healed on that, another memory came in when my son was 22. He took his father's supercar out for a test day and he crashed it.
Oh, wow.
Even though I don't have a physical memory, I saw him do it. And again, I had to run from where I was to where the accident was, and I struggled to run. And so I've started to put healing into that, and what I and I will continue to heal on this, is you talk about you lose your breath, and I'm not an unfit person that when I walk, I will puff.
Yeah.
My husband and so look at me as though you're unfit, and I go, I don't know why I'm puffing.
Yeah.
And I think it's these memories
that
have created that stress in my lung area.
Yeah, absolutely. Stress, I mean, we absolutely know that it decreases oxygenation in your blood, which decreases your breath. Plus, when we become stressed, we tend to start breathing out of our chest rather than our diaphragm. So it's several different ways that we become less oxygenated, shallower breaths, and even breathing from a different place.
Yeah, well, I struggled to do the breathing into the diaphragm, and the best way for me to do it is lying on my back to do it. But there are times when I'm breathing into my stomach, I almost feel like my body is fighting me and wanting to breathe into the chest, not into the stomach.
Yeah, right.
So I'm just and the other question I would ask is, would this also be a feeling that you wouldn't want to feel again, the feeling of shock? Would that be something also to heal? I never want to feel this again.
Well, I think it
is the most painful, Mary.
Yeah, I think that's a little bit individual. Like the biggest traumas I've had in my life, I would not want to pray that I don't feel that again. I would want to pray that if I feel it again, let it be transformed and take me up significantly higher than I am in my life now. And anytime any tragedy like that happens, let me go through it in love so that it does take me higher every time that happens in my life. Because, you know, all day long and all through our lives, so many things are a negotiation. You know, well, I'll pay this much for a house, but not that much. I'll exercise this much and this type of exercise, but I don't like to do this type, etc. Our job, I'll work for this much, but not for that much. I'll work until this time of day, but I won't work later. Well, in a way, this is a negotiation too. The tragedies are going to happen. You can't prevent them. And I would even say, if you're on your deathbed, you don't have a guarantee that another tragedy might occur before you leave this earth. We just have no control over that. So, anything in my life that floats up all boats, anything in my life that takes me to a higher place where I am more enlightened, I am wiser, I am more living in love and joy and peace in the present moment. Man, anything that does that, that is a good negotiation for me. So even if it is another tragedy and I feel that horrible thing, if the end result of that is taking me up to a higher place in my life that I can't just get through very easily from normal conditions, then I would say that's worth it for me. But I think every person probably has to answer that for themselves. And I would say someone who's been through something like the tragic death of a child, I can absolutely see how that person would say, no, my choice is never to feel that again. And I would totally understand that. Now, they don't have any control over that, but you know, I can certainly see how that would be their desire. That's not mine. Mine is, if it happens again to me, let it take me up higher.
In the habit and addiction program.
Yeah.
I've done the one, but because everything else is becoming, I haven't gone back to doing it. But what I have done is there is a prayer that you put in there.
Yeah.
You say that you ask God to take this pain away.
Right.
If it's not what's best for me.
Yeah.
Use it to create something positive in my life.
Yeah.
Use it to teach me to be a better person, to raise me up, and to create more love in me. Well, I've started to add that.
Yeah. I pray that every time.
I put that into every one of my prayers now when I do it. Incidentally, our son did walk away from that accident.
Oh.
And I've always felt, he had a bit of brain bruising. That was, and the neurosurgeon said he's a very lucky boy. But I've always felt that it was a good thing because it taught him that these things, when they go wrong very quickly.
Yeah.
At 22, you think you're bulletproof.
Mm-hmm.
And this was just on a track day. He was the only one on the track, whereas once he started racing, you have other cars around you. Those things go very fast.
Yeah.
facing ever since.
Sure.
So yeah, that was one of those things at the time. It seemed a terrible thing.
Right. Right.
I think it taught him a lot.
Right. Yeah. So
I also,
So yeah.
I haven't got a lot.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I'm changing the subject. So if you want to say what you're going to say.
Well, I agree with everything you said. For some people, their desire is never go through that again. For others, okay, I'll go through it again if it can help transform me to a better and better and better person. But none of us have control over those things. So what we desire is, fine to desire that, but that may not remotely be what happens. And the key is whatever happens, dealing with it in love versus dealing with it in fear.
So I just want to say thank you for these new Jesus ones. I really do find them very helpful. I listen to them and re-listen to them.
Well,
I think there's still a part of me that's trying to feel I have to be good before I can
yeah.
God's grace. But
Hey, me too. Me too. I have that thought at least once a day. I really do. And I've been teaching something else for over 20 years, and I still have that thought at least once a day. It's amazing. But my pleasure. You're very welcome.
thank you.
All right, Johanna.